Evening all. The Zurich Chess Challenge started today, and it started with a Blitz tournament because it's like a festival and part of it is Blitz. And there was quite an amazing Blitz game which intrigued me between Magnus Carlsen and Vishy Anand, which I'd like to show you. I believe the time, if it's the same as last year, is 4 minutes for each player with a 2-second increment for each move. So knight f3 by Magnus Carlsen, and Vishy Anand responds with d5, and then we see b3. I remember Kramnik playing this in a long classical game quite a few times as a surprise weapon. Black now played c5, and here is a point immediately of intrigue. It reminds me a little bit of kind of a reverse Budapest Gambit. White actually plays e4, gambiting temporarily a pawn. And I've been thinking about the Budapest Gambit because it actually occurred in a recent Tatar Steel B tournament with great success. I think Bb5 playing it, a player, 2700 playing it. But here we've got this b3 in the Budapest Gambit. Usually this third rank is clear, and actually that can sometimes help a rook lift. If black's playing the Budapest Gambit, that's often a rook maneuver, funny enough. But there's another interesting property about the Budapest, and it's to do with the defensive knight on h7, that sometimes you get this removed. For example, when black's playing Budapest, this knight on f3 can sometimes be swapped off on e5, leading to a problem on h2. So let's have a look at this game. Knight g5, knight f6, and you'll see what I mean pretty shortly. Knight c3, so white's going to regain that pawn, but doesn't immediately. Let's put on a Kibitzer here. And this is quite rare territory actually. In live book we've already gone out of live book quite rapidly. In fact, so rapidly. Let's just rewind in this position. Has this e4 ever been played before here? Very rarely. The usual move is just e3, 340 games, or bishop b2, 90 games. We've gone down to 3 games just with e4. So a huge surprise, system. Complete surprise for Blitz. And actually, players with black usually play e6 here. 103 games with e6. They don't actually usually take the pawn. So we've gone totally out of opening territory already. So here we're in really brand new territory. Knight f6, knight c3. But it does interest me the mechanism here, which is going on, that sometimes this defensive knight can be swapped off, leaving h7 vulnerable. From an engine point of view, actually, bishop g4 is seen as quite a good move. So bishop e2, bishop f5, bishop b5 check, knight c6, and black apparently is slightly better from an engine point of view here. Although it looks as though there's fierce pressure. If play continues like this looks fairly dangerous, even offering c2 here. But apparently black's going to be better. Don't want to go too far in that direction. So basically here, knight c6 was played, just letting Magnus Carlsen take the pawn back, but bishop c4, ignoring that for a moment, just attacking f7 to blocks in the bishop now. It seems as though knight e5 might not be that good here to defend f7 as an alternative to e6, because bishop b5 check, bishop d7, and here queen e2 might be quite good for white, might offer actually a pleasant enough position. If we take here, takes queen d7, I think the engine actually likes white here in this position. So let's go back anyway. This seemingly passive looking move e6, it does block in the bishop, but apparently it's like technically quite good. Bishop b2, bishop e7. So far, okay, it looks like almost a little bit reminds me of a reverse Budapest Gambit. So white's actually getting the pawn back, but if this defensive knight is removed, we do have some opportunities to potentially attack the black king. So what happens here? Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, and now this might be a dubious move here. A solid move might be b6. I think the idea of b6 as a solid alternative would to keep this chain intact. That's better king safety for black if this pawn isn't under scrutiny, so he's got his fellow pawn here, bishop can potentially be deployed along this diagonal. So e5 does mean that the f7 point is a bit more vulnerable, and combine that with the absence of a knight on f6, and we have a recipe here now cooked up for white to try and exploit this. Magnus Carlsen plays a very aggressive move which seems entirely justified in this position to put further pressure on f7. He plays actually the move f4, and he's also trying to break open, of course, his bishop on the diagonal. And already now white is actually technically better by about half a pawn in this position. It seems quite dangerous. Vishy now took on f4, which might not be the most accurate move either, but it looks as though this is already slightly unpleasant a position. Rook b8 might be threatening, for example, b5, and then with some compensation where black's having to sack a pawn. So that looks like incredible resourcefulness if that's going to be played by a human, to play just casually rook b8. So it was just taken. The pawn was taken, which looks like ordinarily, yeah. I mean, what can you do to f4? And now we see a very aggressive move, which might not have been the best. Maybe best is just taking on f4, but Magnus plays actually queen h5, and I think here again, I think there's a slight inaccuracy by Vishy in this position. He could actually neutralise the upcoming f7 pressure, it would seem, with bishop e6. So if we have a look at this position, does white actually threaten anything major here? If taking queen g4 hits, okay, e6 and g7. Now knight d4 blocks g7 and protects e6, c3, and it seems as though knight f5, and again it seems e6 is shielded here. This is blocked in for the moment, and black will be okay here. So maybe this was the best approach to queen h5, to play bishop e6, but it seems an inaccuracy crept in here of quite large significance now on move 12. Vishy Anand played knight d4. It's not to be taken too seriously though. Blitz, with such a time limit of just 4 minutes with 2-second increments, it's not going to be a amazing quality chess generally, but I mean entertainment comes in, and this is such a novel opening, one of the more novel openings I've ever seen in such a high level blitz game. So we see here now that after rook takes f4, that actually there's a big problem that has emerged here to do with bishop e6. It doesn't actually seem playable in this particular position. If bishop e6 here, white has knight takes c5, undermining the knight, and the queen's protecting c5 here. What can actually black do here? If say g6, then in this position actually knight takes e6 is possible. If takes here, knight takes d8, and at the end of it, the d4 knight is dropping off. It doesn't matter about this counter tactic. We've always got c3 here, and we're a bishop up. So there is a big problem with c5 in this particular position, which makes bishop e6 actually unplayable now. So Vishy, he weakened his king now. It's not easy to suggest anything. Black is severely disadvantaged here, and it looks as though this whole thing of getting rid of the defensive knight, if there's a more abstract mechanism we can get from the Budapest Gambit, is it can be quite attacking with the absence of a defensive knight, and with this very direct queen move, it's difficult to evict the queen or try to kick it without creating chronic dark square weaknesses. And g6 does create chronic dark square weaknesses. We see now just queen e5, and white is threatening all sorts of things. Rook af1, just focally pointing at f7 with 3 pieces for a start. How easy it is to get rid of the queen here. It's very hard with that pawn pinned. Vishy tried in this position b6, and this just allows simply rook af1, and there's a huge threat now of just rook takes f7 and mating on g7. Very, very direct stuff. This is tried to be fended off with bishop f5, and now Magnus just plays g4. He's just battering down that f file. we see bishop e6, and now Magnus simply takes this. Now if knight takes, black would just get mated in one with queen h8. That bishop is lurking around here on this diagonal. So f takes e6, but this doesn't help. Rook takes f8, bishop takes, and now knight f6. Quite a crushing move. Because after the king moves, Magnus just simply has a mate in 3 here. He didn't actually play the mate in 3, it is a blitz game. The mate in 3 is actually with knight e8 check, king g8. Actually, there's a really sweet move here, which the engine's picking up. So Magnus missed this mate in 3. Really sweet. I wonder if you can guess it if I give you 10 seconds. This is just a variation of the game. So white to play and mate in 2 now. If I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, you might want to pause the video. It's a beautiful one. Beautiful side variation. Queen h8 check is possible here. The king would be forced to take, and then rook takes f8 would be mate. The knight stopping king g7. Quite beautiful. But Magnus played c3, which is winning as well, of course. The knight went back. Now knight e8 check. And the difference now, it's a mate in 2, very clear mate in 2, because simply queen takes e6 now. Without the knight defending e6, this is checkmate. Next move, because we blocked in the bishop by playing c3. So the king would move here to h8, and now we have rook takes f8. But yeah, I mean, so quite a crushing game there. So I think the game finished with the knight e8 check in this position. I just thought it was quite a sweet blitz game. I know one shouldn't really take blitz games that seriously, but I just found it very, very innovative by Magnus Carlsen to cheekily play this, such a rare move in this position, to cheekily play e4. So he's really got a fantastic repertoire, even for blitz chess, to spring really interesting surprises in the opening. The fact that he played e4 here. Very interesting stuff. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.